This is a presentation from the Supernaut Network.
Joining us now on the show, fine actor, Bill Sadler. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so our topic is Shawshank Redemption. I remember seeing Shawshank Redemption, and I can admit this now, I actually cut school to go see it. I cut class to go see Shawshank Redemption in the theaters.
You saw it in the movie theater?
I saw it in the theaters. I was one of three people in the theaters that day that actually saw it. But, I walked away from it, and I said, it's like this is a really, really special movie. And 20 years later, everyone agrees with me now. But at the time, the box office wasn't that great. It was kind of a disappointment at the box office. Initially, how did you guys feel about that? And then once it started getting the love, how'd that feel?
Well, you're absolutely right, and I think part of the reason that it failed in the movie theaters was the title, was the name of the film, because Shawshank doesn't mean it means something now, but it sounds, it's like an Indian name, or nobody knows what a Shawshank is, and Redemption sounds like it's religious, and then people hear that it's a long prison movie, and they just stayed away in droves. It was I think it only made something like $18 million in domestic sales, ticket sales. And you're right, it opened and closed. And then when the Academy Awards were announced, and it was up for 6 or 7 Academy Awards, but it was also up for Best Picture, they put it back in the movie theaters. But it really came to life in video.
Home video,
yeah. Of those, in home video, which had just gotten started 20 years ago, and it became like the most rented film, of all time. It took people a while to catch on, which is that's unfortunate, I guess. I mean, I'm sure I didn't talk to Frank Darabont, the director, immediately after it opened, but I'm sure it was a disappointment when, it was in the theaters for like 2 weeks or something, and then they pulled it because it just, nobody was going to see it because nobody knew what the hell it was, and it's very gratifying. And then after people discovered it, it was fun because people kept saying, even 20 years ago, they're like, "This is a classic. This is a classic." And I kept saying, "No, not yet. It's not." Let's wait a couple decades and give it a little time and see. Because I've done movies that are, I thought they were pretty terrific, at the time that they opened, and you look at them now and they just feel dated. You've seen movies like this. You watch them now and all you can look at are the hairstyles and the clothing, and they just feel like of the time in which they were made. And this somehow, because it was a period piece to begin with, just the pieces fell together in such a way that you never feel that it's kind of lost. It's timeless in that way, But it's very gratifying. I love the fact that it's as popular today as it is. This kind of movie doesn't come along very often.
Absolutely.
So I felt very grateful. I'm very gratified to have been involved in it.
Yeah. Hey, I want to ask, in your mind, what did Haywood go to prison for?
Murder.
Did he do it?
No, he didn't do it. Lawyer fucked him. I think Haywood actually did do it. But like most of the people in Shawshank, I think he probably actually. I always thought in the back of my head that he killed somebody in a drunken
Some kind of drunken bar fight or
some
some
kind of
kind of
yeah, some really stupid event. It was like, where he stuck up a 7-Eleven or something, and he maybe not murder, maybe it was just armed robbery, and I was never sure, but I was always sure that he was guilty as
Oh man. One of your memorable lines from the movie, and you might know before I even say it, is when you say, "Alexandre, dumbass." And I mean, I still laugh every single time I see it. I've seen this movie 50 plus times, and I laugh every single time. And it's one of my favorite scenes that you're in. If you had to pick a favorite that you were in, what would it be?
A favorite scene?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty fun. That one, I loved out in the yard throwing the ball around. And you know what scene I like? The one where I win the bet, where Fat Ass where I taunt Fat Ass until he's crying and he's screaming, and so I've won the bet. And then almost immediately the guards flip the lights on and come in, and almost immediately I'm sorry that I know what's going to happen to him if he doesn't shut up.
Right.
Yeah. And I've always loved that little moment, and he's sort of under his breath he's saying, shut up.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to win the bet. He didn't mean to get anybody killed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, Frank Darabont. I met Frank on the set of Tales from the Crypt. He was a writer for the series Tales from the Crypt, and I did the very first episode of Tales, called "The Man Who Was Death."
Mm-hmm.
And it did well, and Frank approached me sometime later and said, I'm going to make this movie, and I'd like you to be in it. And of course, everybody in Los Angeles says that to you eventually. It's like every cab driver says, I'm going to make this movie, and I want you to be in it, which is lovely, and I'm grateful. And I said, okay, great. And he sent me a copy of the Stephen King novella. He sent me a copy of the anthology. I think it's called A Different Season. And in it was the story. He had bookmarked Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. And I read, but it wasn't a script. It was just the book, So I thought, yeah, okay, whatever. And then a couple of years later, he had gotten the script together, and he'd gotten it to Castle Rock was going to do it, and they started the casting process, and he actually approached me, and so it was an extraordinary experience. It actually, they were doing table reads at Castle Rock with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow.
That's for the role of Andy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how that all fell apart. I'm not sure Frank wanted Tom, and I don't think Tom wanted Frank, because Frank had never directed anything before, he was really a green director, and they didn't hit it off. And, Frank even talks about the feeling that we sort of caught lightning in a bottle with this one. You can put together all the great elements that you want, and not find the chemistry, not hit the sweet spot. And in this one, it's remarkable, but it just feels so of a piece that you can't take away a scene without diminishing the impact.
Right.
I think we were all surprised, by the way, with the reaction. I don't think any of us at the beginning thought that this was going to be, you know.
What it became, yeah. I mean, it's honestly, I mean, in my ranking, it's one of my favorite, probably top 3 favorite films of all time. And if you look at the rankings over time, it's steadily on people's favorite lists and best film lists. It's always on something as time keeps going on. It is one of those classic movies, and it's hard to think about that because you think of the classic movies and you think, 1994,
right,
come on, yeah, exactly, and it's steadily on that list,
Well, that's what I meant when people started saying that to me way back when. I would say, no, wait until give it. You got to get some distance on it before you can,
Right.
Don't want to declare something the champion after a year or two.
Right. Like a month after.
Yeah.
Classic.
One of my favorite scenes is when you guys are out there tarring a roof.
Oh yeah.
And Morgan Freeman said you guys were really playing with tar. Is that true? You were really tarring a roof.
Indeed, we were. They had heated up these huge buckets of tar, and we all had tar mops and as it got cold, you couldn't move the god. You were like mucking this stuff around on the roof. But the scene, you know how filming goes. It takes forever. You shoot this angle, and then you have to move the cameras, then you shoot another angle, and then you move the cameras, and then you break for lunch, and then you shoot another angle, and it goes on all day long. But each time after a few minutes, the tar would get cold, and you couldn't move the mop. It was great. I don't think any of us. I like the beer drinking scene too. I always thought that was fun.
Was it real beer?
Little moment. I don't remember. Probably. I don't know. Maybe it might have been near beer.
Yeah.
Because we all had to keep working the rest of the day.
would have been quite interesting moving those mops around if you were drinking all day. Yeah.
But it's amazing. In so many ways, it was maybe one of the most fun experiences I've ever had too, filming, because everybody brought their A game. A lot of times you show up on a movie set and you don't hang out with everybody, or you don't, you meet the woman who's going to play your wife the morning that you're going to shoot the big divorce scene. Everybody's thrown together and you shoot it, and then everybody goes their own way. This one, Frank brought everybody together at the Mansfield Correctional Facility for 2 weeks of rehearsal, because he wanted us to have all the little fibers running between us, all the little tiny relationships that people in prison would have, that make it feel like these guys have known each other for 19 years or 20 years or whatever. They all have these little codes and byplays and winks and nods and looks and communications going on constantly about everything, which made it made it really fun to do. It's sort of, you could aim the camera anywhere around the table at any one of these faces, and they were engaged. They were. Everybody was feeding the scene.
Wow. Did that create any kind of us versus them mentality? The actors being so close knit. Us versus the crew, maybe. You guys are being so.
No. I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. And you were also, James Whitmore was sitting there, and it was great, and Morgan and Tim, and there was a great, there was plenty of respect, and between takes we would sit around at James Whitmore's. Sit around James Whitmore and listen to him tell stories, from 100 years ago. There was just this great. I don't know. There was a nice camaraderie, I thought.
Good.
There was a lot of time to kill between setups, and so.
I mean, I could imagine that Whitmore had some great stories. I could imagine that, and I think, you guys share such a memorable scene in that movie too. What was it like having him after being almost like a grandfatherly figure to you off the set, then hold a knife to you? Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting thing. When we went to shoot that scene, James was terrified that he would hurt me. He couldn't bring himself to bring that knife blade to my neck to touch my skin with it. He was so worried that his hands would shake, or he would somehow cut me. And the knife was dull as can be. I mean, they'd ground the edge off. You could, you know what I mean? You really couldn't cut yourself with it if you tried. But he was just so gentle, and I sort of had to help him.
Help him attack you, essentially.
Just a little frail, so I had to keep assuring him he wasn't gonna, it's fine, it doesn't hurt. And they added a little touch of blood and blah blah blah. We did it finally, but there was a lot of. He was very nervous about it. He was very conscious of the fact that he had a blade next to my neck, and that scared him. What a great guy, though. What a wonderful.
He has such a great career, yeah, and I know that was one of the reasons that Frank wanted him involved, is because of just such a rich kind of background of characters that he did. It's just and then you throw this one in, and just heartbreaking
really?
character, heartbreaking. If
and then he hangs himself.
If you could have one of those types of roles, and he had a bunch of great roles, so it was good for him, and I mean you did Shawshank, and then after that you worked with Frank a couple more times. Did you just enjoy Stephen King, or was it working with Frank more?
Well, Frank keeps calling me, so when
you must be doing something right then.
when he calls, I say yes. I love the man. He's like, so yeah. They called up, and I did the thing in the Green Mile, which just about killed me because I'm not a runner really, and I had work boots on and running on the stony riverbed, and had to do it over and over and over again. They built this track for that. This moment where I come out of the water and I see John Coffey holding the two little girls, and I start running, right, and and Frank just kept doing it over and over. I'm running with this heavy shotgun and wet clothes and work boots that are full of water now. I was like,
and yet you still keep working with this guy.
I'm not a runner. I don't have long legs. I don't got, I'm huffing and puffing like a freight train, and he kept, they laid this track, this eighth of a mile of track to follow me running. It was like, so that wasn't fun. But it was, and Frank still teases me about how, he's going to do a movie about a long distance runner. I fucking hate to run. Very. But it was that was the part that was tough about that, was imagining even a little bit that someone had killed my daughter. Because I have a daughter. She's 30 now, or 28, 29 now. But at the time that we shot that, she was about the age of the little girls. And putting myself in the place of a. I mean, there's no more horrifying thing in the world than, they're gone. There's blood on the floor, and they're gone.
Right.
And just to live in that place for a couple of days was they didn't pay me enough. It costs something emotionally. Like
Absolutely.
You gotta go there. You gotta kind of go there, or you have to. That's just the way I work, kind of way. You have to sort of you have to go there far enough so that the camera, the camera believes you.
Right.
I have to shift gears just for a little bit. And I have to ask you, you played one of the most divisive characters working for the most divisive organizations in Star Trek history. I want to know, was Sloan power mad? Was he misguided? Was he good? Was Sloan evil? What do you think?
I think Sloan, I liked playing Sloan, and I jumped at the chance to be involved in the Star Trek business. That particular role, I always felt that he was sort of modeled after Oliver North, who operated behind the scene. He broke the laws. He did things that the rest of the world would say were wrong, but he does them for the country, or he does them for what he thinks is the right reason. These sort of black ops. So, of course he's evil. of course he's evil because he's doing evil things. I mean, I think Section 31, they would start a plague on a planet that the Federation was having a war with, and it would kill everybody on the planet. And he said, and then, he said, you don't think they got that plague by accident, do you? So his little, they operate outside of the law and with no ethics and no morals, no moral compass whatsoever. It's just pragmatic. We do whatever we need to do to keep the Federation alive.
Right.
And we decide what that is. And so he was evil. It was a fascinating character to play. I love the little the way he was introduced. That Dr. Bashir wakes up and Sloan is sitting at the foot of his bed, like waiting for him. the creepiest entrance you can imagine. All I kept thinking is, how long has he been sitting there?
Yeah.
How did he get? You know what I mean? It was a great way to introduce the character, because it's just so good. He's sort of all powerful and all knowing, and and creepy.
Yeah, very much.
It's always fun to play creepy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've always had a yen to play creepy. So
most of our guests seem to say that, though. We've had some people play some very creepy characters before, and they always say it's fun to play.
Get over it. It's fun to play creepy. I mean, everybody, you can play good guys, and creepy guys are fun. Dangerous people.
Well, speaking of creepy guys, and this will be our last question here. You've been pretty active in movies and TV and on stage, and one of my hopes is that in Bill and Ted 3 we might see an appearance of death. That's one of my hopes. Is that even for a little bit? I'm hoping that that's the case. But you have you've had a chance to play Death twice, though, right? You played the Grim Reaper in Tales from the Crypt.
I did. Well, I guess just for a moment. But yeah, the Reaper was one of the most fun things that I've ever done too. That was a fascinating little process because they wanted a star for that. They went to Christopher Lloyd, and they were looking for someone with a bigger name, or somebody who was older, or Christopher Lee, the British horror movie star. But I had this Czechoslovakian accent that I stole from an actor named Jan Triskin, which don't tell Jan though. No one's going to hear this, right?
Yeah, no.
But I did a play with this actor named Jan Triskin, and he's from Czechoslovakia, and he would talk, and he was talking. Everything was like this, was kind of funny, whatever said, and I just thought it was this. I just thought it was funny, and so I went in and I did it. I did it for the audition, and the casting woman Karen Ray called me up and said, "Bill, you got like a week later, they kept going to other people, but they kept coming back to my tape because it was funny." And she said, "You got to go to a Halloween store and get some makeup and maybe gray your hair or black out your teeth, or you've got to look older and come back in and do it again. Do the same audition again for Orion Films at the time." And so I thought, well, that's going to look stupid. So I called Scott Edo, the makeup man from Die Hard 2, who happened to be in town, and I went over to his house the morning of the tape and of the audition, and I sat in his kitchen, and he made me look like a 70-year-old man, but believable, but camera ready 70-year-old man, right? And I was like, I don't know, I was 30 something or mid 30s or late 30s or something, but I had this like truly believable older looking makeup on, and I went and I drove right from there to the audition and put myself on tape. And Karen Ray told me afterwards, the casting woman told me afterwards, that one of the producer who thought I was too young came up to her and said, he looks much older in person. But it was no, that was great fun. And if they do another one, I've told Alex I would. I'm so on board if they can use me.
I can only hope.
If they can use me, I would be thrilled to come back and do him again. He was great. He was great fun to do.
More Twister.
Whatever. He was part of the. I don't know. I've heard there's a script. And they're raising money. It's kind of on again, off again. I guess Keanu and Alex would like to do it. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
That would be really fun to go reprise that role.
Oh.
Even just one scene.
We can only hope. Bill, we appreciate your time. You have movie Ava's Possessions that you were just in. It premiered at South by Southwest, right?
Sweet.
So,
yeah.
So hopefully that'll be showing up soon enough for our eyeballs.
I just did one with Woody Harrelson just before Christmas. I did some work on a Western that was called By Way of Helena. By Way of Helena. I don't know that that's the title.
That's going to stick, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The titles always change. But yeah, you can watch for that one.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, we really appreciate the time. We really look forward to what you do, and TV-wise and film-wise. And I know that you love doing some stage stuff from time to time too. So just keep out there. We love seeing you out there.
Thank you. Well, great. Nice talking to you.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye.